Reimagine your life by becoming an RN at Duke Health, a recognized health system in North Carolina's area known as the Triangle, home to award-winning restaurants, beautiful scenic spaces, and an eclectic art and music scene. You'll have plenty to enjoy in the area and cities beyond. What's more, you'll have a career filled with purpose and opportunity, matched by benefits that best support your wellness, family, and future, offering sign-on bonuses and relocation. Apply today at dukenursing.org.
The Big Bark, listen up dog owners, it's for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host Darragh Bourke and canine co-hosts Bruno and Millie. The Big Bark.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new season of The Big Bark. It's been quite a while since we've been on last. Actually, back in December was our last episode. Took a nice little break. Not really much to talk about during COVID, lockdown number 47 or whatever we're at right now. But I'm glad today to be starting off the new season with none other than IMDT trainer Carrie Hoade, who is the resident dog trainer and leader of the dog training team at MADRA in Galway. Carrie, welcome back to The Big Bark. Glad to have you back.
Thanks a million, Darragh. It's great to be back. Great that you're happy to have me back again.
So, sure, look, you did quite well the last time. So,
Good okay.
So tell me, Carrie, and tell our listeners who haven't actually heard of you before, tell us about yourself.
So I am a dog trainer. Work at MADRA. We're a dog rescue shelter in Connemara in Ireland, in Galway. And I suppose I started working there probably about 5.5 years ago as a canine carer in the shelter. And I suppose we had a lot of dogs coming in with a lot of different training issues and some with behavioural issues. And I suppose I really just wanted to understand how I could help them better, how I could help modify their behaviour, to help them get rehomed, get suitable homes. So I started studying dog training with the IMDT and a few other organisations as well. But I did my assessment with the Institute of Modern Dog Trainers. So it just kind of went from there. I'm really passionate about force-free training for dogs, and it's something that you probably will have to cut me off talking about today. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I suppose you mentioned force-free trainers. Like, that's a massive thing now for a lot of dog trainers. It's a real kind of, I suppose, modern technique, whereas years ago it was all like punishment based, where now it's like real kind of positive reinforcement based.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's different styles of training still out there and still exist. And I suppose the way that I train and the way that I like to deal with dogs is that it's very much relationship based. I don't want my dogs doing things because they're afraid of consequences. I don't want my dogs doing things out of fear. I want dogs to want to work with me, to have a relationship with me. The training should be fun, and you can modify behaviours through positive reinforcement training. You can build confidence. You can strengthen your bond with your dog. There's just so many reasons to use positive reinforcement training. And I suppose, you know, when you talk about labels like force-free and fear-free and positive reinforcement, and sometimes these words are kind of used quite a lot, and people have different understanding of what those words mean. Some people might say they use positive reinforcement, but they also use corrections and punishments. So it gets very, very confusing, and that's for trainers and behaviourists, never mind the general public who are maybe on the hunt for a trainer. It's very, very difficult to know who to go to or what you should be looking out for. And in Ireland, I suppose the issue is that it's not a regulated industry. So absolutely anybody can advertise themselves as a dog trainer, but they might not have any qualifications or actual understanding of canine behaviour, or have done any kind of formal study, or have experience. So it's kind of it's a bit of a minefield, to be honest. And I really feel for people when they're trying to get help for their dog or any issues that they might be having. It's not easy.
Yeah, definitely not. And like you mentioned there, like I suppose probably, I don't know what I'd call them, like maybe chancers out there who like are saying that like they are like dog trainers, but like all they've probably done is someone has watched a few YouTube videos to train their own dog. And like, it's the same, I suppose, in any industry. You have people who just watch a few YouTube videos and suddenly, I'm qualified at this.
Yeah, absolutely. You do see that, and it's very unfortunate because dogs and their owners end up paying the price. And I suppose when there's an issue with, you know, Googling information about dog training, because you can Google about any particular topic of dog training, but the quality of information that you get is very varied. And also, you know, the difference of having a trainer come to your house and look at the overall situation. I mean, one particular topic, a dog could be displaying a behavior for many, many different reasons. A dog could be mouthing and chewing because they're teething, or, you know, they could have a toothache, or they could be, you know, there's loads of different reasons. So by Googling it, it isn't just a one answer to apply to all things that look similar. So that's, you know, it's like, even if you're Googling medical issues with your dog, it's very, very risky, because what it might look like might be actually something very different. So I would always kind of say to people, you know, stay away from Google, because it's really hard to get information, and that might only apply to one part of what you're dealing with, and there's other things that are involved that, you know, a trainer can help you with, a good trainer who can come in and kind of look at the overall situation and your lifestyle with your dog and the issues that you're dealing with. So that's what I'd always kind of urge people to do, is to get a qualified trainer. It's well worth investing in that, and especially when you get a puppy, you want to do things right from the start. Everybody does. You know, it's worth getting that investment, getting that help. And people say, but look, you know, I've had dogs all my life. I know how to train dogs. That, you know, this, I don't need to spend money on a trainer. But things have changed. Things have come a long way since we were younger and we had dogs, and you know, how they were brought up. So things have changed quite a lot, and there's a lot of information out there. So I suppose I just think if you're adding a puppy to your family, or a dog, an adult dog, you know, it's well worth getting the advice of professionals so that you can do things right. I mean, there's nothing worse when you talk to someone and they realize that they've done things that maybe weren't in the best interest of their dog, because they followed the wrong advice from somebody else. And then, you know, they have that guilt that they've damaged the bond between them and their dog. And that's a hard thing to kind of carry with you. So for me, I really would say, look, if you're thinking of getting a dog or a puppy, to absolutely get help beforehand. Don't wait till there's issues. Don't get a trainer in as a last chance saloon, because we just don't know what to do at the stage. We've tried everything. You know, get on the right start with your puppy and get a trainer in one or two sessions, and you actually cover quite a lot of stuff. So yeah, I always kind of urge people to kind of go down that route and just get the help from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose for a lot of people, especially in the last year since like COVID has come along, a lot of people probably are a bit like uncomfortable with getting a dog trainer in as well into their house, inviting a strange person in who's been probably in other houses as well. So like there is that aspect too as well. Like I'd say a lot of trainers have probably suffered because of COVID.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of trainers, obviously most of us haven't been able to go into people's houses. But now that restrictions are lifting and things are opening up, you can check with your local trainers to see if their insurance covers them to do one-to-one training in your garden or in the park, where you both are socially distant and you're wearing masks. You know, so that's something that is starting to come back. I think now with the restrictions lifting, that there will be puppy classes happening again, and I'm very happy about that, because I think that's really needed. Well-run puppy classes are needed, especially for all these new puppies. There was some statistics out yesterday about the amount of dogs that were gotten during the last year during lockdown, and I do feel like that some pups have missed out on, you know, socialization and certain aspects that maybe would have been addressed with puppy classes. So I think now going forward there will be more options for new puppy parents, that they can get the support that they need. And a lot of trainers during lockdown have done Zoom consults, and you know, some people are kind of going, well, what can you really learn in a Zoom consult? Like, I need the person here to show me what to do. But actually it's not true. For a lot of cases, you know, all the trainer is doing is instructing you and guiding you to how to interact with your dog and how to deal with training issues. So you don't need the trainer there. You can do this on a Zoom. You don't need to have that kind of risk, or, someone coming into your home or whatever. You can do it. And the beauty of Zoom is that actually you can try and find a trainer whose methods that you really like. And it doesn't matter then if they live far away or wherever, they don't need to come to the house. So there's always options if people are looking for support, but they're worried about, COVID and obviously adhering to government guidelines and things like that. There's still support available,
Yeah, and like you mentioned Zoom there, I suppose in a way that's like teaching, like it's actually training dog owners to train the dog themselves in a way as well. Like the trainers are passing on that information.
Absolutely, because if a trainer goes into a home and they have the puppy doing all kinds of tricks and all this great stuff, and that's fantastic. But if that trainer goes home and if the family don't know how to do the same stuff, then, what's the point of that? Like, you're not moving in with the family. They have to live with the puppy. So it's about guiding them and showing them how to teach puppies in the way that they learn, because they do learn in a bit of a different way to us. And it's about guiding them towards that, and how our body language and how we teach our dogs new skills. That's definitely something that you can do absolutely over Zoom. That's not a problem.
And okay, so obviously we're talking a lot about puppies today. So what exactly, I suppose, what would be like the biggest issues that you come across as a dog trainer with puppies?
So this might go on into 2 podcasts if I get my way. But I suppose the first thing is I do hear a lot from people who really, really, really struggle with the biting and the jumping up. They're massive issues. People really, really struggle with that. And, it just becomes a vicious cycle, and they get frustrated with the puppy, and they start resenting this little shark that they brought into their home a little bit. And there's loads of stuff around that where people get very, very, very stressed out by it. And, they're following stuff that they read online and it's not working, and this, that, and the other. So it's that kind of stuff is very, very common. I also hear about like toilet training, kind of that is harder than people kind of anticipated. So some people do need a little bit of help with that. The other one, I suppose, is socialization. So it's one of those words that are a bit of a trigger for me, because I think a lot of people are aware of socialization and that puppies have that critical socialization period. But I suppose, again, what the word socialization means to people is very different. So for some people, they think, right, we want this pup to be resilient. We want this pup to grow up to be a robust dog who can handle things. So we get this puppy, we're bringing this puppy everywhere. And that's actually not what socialization is. Socialization is more about exposing dogs to lots of novel kind of sights and sounds and textures, but pairing it with something positive. And watching their body language, so that if they're not comfortable, that we take them away from that situation. So it's done in a much more controlled and kind of positive manner. I'm a big fan of tracking things, so I'm a big fan of having little targets each day or each week that we'd like to expose our puppy to, but in a nice positive way. So things like motorbikes and men with hats and sunglasses and trains and all of these things that dogs have to deal with in their adult life. And I suppose it's something that I do feel very, very strongly about, because with my background in rescue, I see the consequences of what happens when dogs haven't had appropriate socialization, and dogs who are crippled by fear because they can't process new things, or they can't cope, or their first response is to be fearful of something new in the environment. And that just could be because now a man, it comes in and they've got a hood up, and now that's terrifying. For us, we can understand what's going on, but for a dog, that's quite different. So I suppose that it all comes back to what we do in those first few weeks, up to kind of 16 weeks, 14 weeks, depending on what studies you're going on. But kind of that's our golden opportunity. That's our window there that we have to get in, and we have to do that properly. So it's not flooding them with loads of information and new things. Sometimes it just means bringing them to the park in your arms and just sitting down and watching things go past and, you know, feeding them some food, some of their lunch or some chicken or something, and going home again. It's not this kind of thing of bringing them everywhere and flooding them with information. So I think that's important to point out for socialization. So they're kind of the main issues that I would see a lot that people struggle with.
And like you mentioned there as well about like the sunglasses, the hats. Another, I suppose, big one that's happened in the last year that like puppies, especially, or any dog for that matter, would never been used to before, would be the face coverings, masks. And like,
Yeah.
Like, would you ever see dogs that kind of get freaked out by that? Because like it is a very new thing. It's a new thing for us as well in the last year, but especially for dogs, like the fact that they can't see the face.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose that's one advantage that puppies, the puppies that are around now, they're being exposed to that from the get go, really. But for adult dogs, yeah, I think there was a bit of fear at the start from a lot of trainers and behaviours that dogs would struggle. But actually, I've seen dogs coping very, very well with them. But again, you know, it comes down to watching your own individual dog and their body language. And if they're a little fearful of someone wearing a mask, then we need to step back and we need to help them with that. We need to just dial things way, way back and actually slow down the process of what we're doing and start desensitizing them to people wearing masks. And that's something that can be done. We can help our dogs with that. But yeah, it's kind of a new thing that I suppose we never thought we'd have to expose our dogs to.
And do you know, okay, a lot of like people like I've heard a lot of people ask like about crate training. Now, what's, as a trainer, like for puppies, what's your views on crate training?
So I'm a big fan of crate training once it's done properly. I will say that I don't think crate training is for every puppy. There isn't a one size fits all, but I do love crate training puppies from the get go because it can help with toilet training, can help them at night time. But it has to be done in a really, really, really positive way. That crate has to be the best place in the world where all the food happens, all lots of good stuff. Every time we come back there's good stuff in there. We have to build it up really slowly. What tends to happen and what tends to go wrong with crate training is people just pop them in and like close the door and there you go. This is your new place. And puppies freak out. It's terrible. It's absolutely traumatic for them. And now this place has become a negative place for the puppy. So we have to dial things way back for them and go, right, how can I help my puppy think this is the best place in the world? Like what can we do? We can do there's loads of little crate games that you can do with puppies that you can do from the get-go when you bring the puppy home, throwing some food into the crate, throwing some out. We're not rushing to close it. We're not trying to trick our puppies. We want them to build up this emotional response to the crate that this is the best place ever. We want that because for life, it's good for a puppy to have their own, and dogs to have their own space, their own place, that when they're in there, nobody can bother them. That's where they can go and chill out and snooze, or they can go with their enrichment toys, or, you know, whatever it is that they like. All happens in there. So that's something that does take time to build up. And I suppose, yeah, where it can go wrong is just when people rush that process, and then now they've got a puppy who absolutely can't cope in the crate. And I will get those calls, and people kind of go, well, you know, they just have to deal with it, and they try and, you know, let the puppy cry it out and all of this stuff that's actually quite damaging for puppies. That puppies who've just been taken away from the only thing that they've ever known, taken away from their mum, their litter mates. So if we just take them and then suddenly we've put them in this cold, empty crate all on their own and just walk away, then that's absolutely just so distressing for them. So I always talk about, if we're going to do crate training, we have to do it properly. And I suppose the benefits of doing it from a puppy and doing it properly is that, you know, all dogs probably should be crate trained, because there might be a time where they need to go to the vet, or they might have an injury and they might need to be on crate rest. And for dogs, and again, I've seen it in rescue dogs who've come in that have had injuries and they've needed crate rest. Now this crate rest is imposed on them because it has to be for their recovery, but it's hugely stressful for them because they've never been in this situation before where they're closed in, and it's just kind of a stress that they don't need. So there's loads of benefits to crate training your puppy, even if it's not something that you want to use long term. I do think that it's worth doing, because you just don't know when you're going to need that, or if you're traveling or you're going somewhere, that this isn't the time. That's not the time to start crate training when you need it. So it always like set your puppy up for success by starting young with the crate. And there's lots of things around the crate training, like, you know, the size of the crate, where it's placed, if it's covered, if it's got a crate cover, you know, what it's like in there, what stuff is in there, what are we putting in there for the puppy to enjoy. Lots and lots of things that we can do to either make or break whether the puppy loves that crate or finds that crate a really, really stressful kind of place. I suppose crate training, some people have very strong views on it. But I think if you condition your puppy to that crate properly, then you have a puppy who will choose to go in there if the door is open. Like throughout the day, they'll want to go in there. And it just means that if you're in that process, you're trying to toilet train throughout the day, and pups especially find it really hard to switch off when they need a nap. So they get biting, they get over aroused, and what they actually do is it's need to be have a little nap, or then, you know, whereas if we're used to a little routine of going into the crate with a stuffed Kong or something, then we can help bring them down, and they can have a little nap, and we can do what we need to do, and then we can take them out for a toilet break after that. So yeah, lots of stuff around the crate, and again, I would say to people, don't rush that. If they need help with that, absolutely get a trainer, because it's harder when you've kind of gone too far and rushed the process, that it's much harder then to come back and try and change how your puppy feels about the crate when they've already decided, no, I don't like it there. So yeah, crate training is a big one.
And on the other side of that, then, I suppose, like, what would be your views on people who, like, say, would let their dogs, like, sleep on the bed, or, like, at the end of the bed, like, rather than a crate?
So that's completely an individual choice. I think that's, for some dogs, that's fantastic. I think it really comes down to the individual dog, the individual situation. Some dogs wouldn't be comfortable sleeping on a bed because they might have guarding issues, or they might not like people moving around and stuff like that. Some people might not like their dog in their bed because they just want to get a good night's sleep, and maybe they think their pup will be too giddy. So I think it comes down to individual preference. And I suppose because we were talking about puppies today, what I always say to people is actually start out having the puppy in the bedroom with you, so the pup has 24/7 access to you at the start. And people are like, but then, you know, then they're completely dependent on me, and they're going to get separation anxiety, and all of these kind of concerns creep in. But actually, the studies have shown that actually that's how we build a resilient pup. We give them that free access and build that secure attachment first, before we then start working on doing some separation stuff very, 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 very gradually. That's how you build a resilient pup. But in terms of in the bedroom, it can be nice to just cuddle up with your dog on the bed and watch some Netflix. I mean, there's no issues with that. I think some people have issues with it just because of old school kind of thinking. But for me personally, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I think same for me. Like, look, I'll be perfectly honest. Like, my own two, like, they sleep on the bed like every night, or well, like they go into the bed when it's time for bed, and then like when we get into bed, it's kind of like, oh, you're here now, we have to get down. So like they go down to their own bed then, but like the minute I get up for work in the morning, like they're straight up on the bed, and it's like,
yeah,
well, if I want to go back to bed, I can't. So
there's no room.
Exactly.
And your ones aren't they're not exactly small dogs either.
No, they're not. Bruno's the size of a small horse, to be honest.
You'll have to get one of those specially built beds.
Yeah. They look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, that's nice. That's yours, though." So tell me now, like you mentioned there about like, especially like about house training as well. Like on average, how long does it take to actually properly house train a pup if it's done properly?
It really varies, to be honest, from pup to pup. But I would say you need to be consistent, and you need to start it right from the start. So bringing your pup out every 15 minutes, bringing your pup out after they've woken up for a nap, every time they've had a little bit of a play session, bring them straight out after that. They've had some food and water, bringing them out after that. I'm a big fan because I love tracking stuff in dog training. So I'm a big fan of actually having little charts. And it's nice if there's a family or whatever, you can have a little chart and we tick off when the pup was out last. Then we can identify, if there was a little accident, then actually that's always on us as the humans, always. And you're going to have accidents while they're learning because they don't have their bladder isn't fully developed yet, so you're going to have little accidents. But I suppose it's how we handle them, how we go about the crate training, making sure that every time they go outside, when they finish going, that we praise them for that, and we pair that with something really high value, so that now going outside is really, really, really worth their while to do it outside. It does take time to build that up, and I suppose it is just about being consistent, because people, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour can go by very, very quickly, and then you realise, oh, well, actually, the pup hasn't gone out, and now they've gone on the carpet or whatever. Never the pup's fault. But in terms of how long it takes, I suppose, it does really vary, to be honest, and what you're doing with the pup the rest of the time. So if you're not able to supervise them, are they in a playpen, or are they in the crate, or where are they at? So I suppose there's a lot to it, really. But it's definitely something that if you're on the ball with it and you're very consistent, then you will very quickly see the progress.
Yeah. And
so it's worth putting yourself out for the first while to get it right,
I think for us as well, like with Bruno, when he was the pup, like we got him when he was like, I think he was 12 weeks, and he never had accidents during the day, but he always had it at night, because my dad now would be like kind of like the older kind of style of like training, just leaving there.
Yeah.
But like he used to be crying away up in the like living room at night, like because he was on his own, and like used to be having like loads of accidents as well. Probably like that bit of separation anxiety there, like you said yourself, like he's after being taken away from his mother. He's like in a new place that he's not used to.
Yeah.
But then like it was shortly after that he actually like started to like come down to my room at night. I think one night like he kept me awake, and I was just like, oh, come on. And ever since that night, he never went inside.
Wow.
He never went inside. So like I think it definitely works for like some dogs to have them like near you as well, like, cause like but
absolutely.
He still chews things up though. So 5 years on, he's still chewing things up. I've had to hide my socks.
Chewing's very important for dogs. They need about 4 hours of chewing a day. So we have to give them outlets for that. And if we don't meet that need, then, everything else is fair game for them.
Fair enough, yeah. What would you say, like, if I told you he dug a hole out the back and buried the clicker for the clicker trainer? He didn't like it, so that was God. Yeah.
That was a very clear way of telling you that maybe clicker training isn't for you guys.
And tell me about on that, like when should you, like, for people like looking to do clicker training, like it is very successful for some dogs. When should people start that?
If you want to use clicker training, you can start it as soon as you bring the puppy home. Once you know how to use it properly, I think some people can have a tendency to use it like a remote control, and it's click, 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 and it doesn't have any meaning for the puppy. So if you're going to use a clicker, you need to research how to use it properly. And for some people, having an extra thing in their hand is more complicated and confusing, and they're kind of like, oh God, some people aren't comfortable with using the clickers. Other people they love it. So it comes down to individual kind of preference. As well as that, some pups and some dogs can find the click sound aversive, because some of them are quite loud. So you can get ones that have where you can dial the volume down, or you can just use a little clicker pen or something if you want. So I suppose that's kind of determines how effective our clicker training is going to be. If the pup if we build up an emotional, conditioned emotional response to the clicker, then absolutely we can use that for training anything that we like. Kiko Pup has lovely videos on YouTube. She does great ones, clicker training, and she'd gotten a pup there recently, and she did clicker stuff from the start, and she shows the videos of, teaching the pup to go into the crate and choosing to go into the bed and doing all these other behaviours that started very, very young. Pups are learning from the get-go, so you can absolutely do it. But it's not necessary. If you don't want to use a clicker, you don't feel comfortable, you can just use a verbal marker word like yes. So I use a mixture with my dogs, and that's fine. There's no issue. But yeah, some people are kind of like, they panic having another thing, or where's my clicker? So it comes down to personal preference whether to use them or not. But I'm a fan. I love them.
Well, you asked for my clicker. It's still buried somewhere out the back. So it's that was done with. That's gone. But
tip is saved.
It's okay. What would be your number one tip for people who are like after getting a new pup and are looking like for general tips on to train the pup?
I suppose my number one tip is to be sympathetic towards the puppy. Their life has just changed massively, and now there's all these rules, and they don't know what those rules are. We expect quite a lot from our puppies from the start, and actually we really have to invest that time into helping them to feel confident and to feel brave and to experience new things. Everything is so new for them. Everything, like it's so much when you sit down and think about what they have to process and what they're exposed to and what they have to habituate towards. Then we really need to look at our expectations and kind of go, right, we have to put this time in now to help build our puppy up so that they're able to cope as an adult dog. So I would say, yeah, look, get the help at the time when you get the puppy. It's well worth getting a professional in to go through the basics. I would suggest getting Steve Mann's book, Easy Peasy Puppy Squeezy.
Actually, have it somewhere right here, I believe. Let me see. 2 seconds, I do have it. Yeah. Oh, his office has just become such a mess at this stage. But yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the one. So he's got the puppy one as well.
That's the original one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the puppy one. And that I like that one because I find even kids will read that one. Or older kids who are going to be doing. Sometimes they're the best trainers in the family, so sometimes they'll read that book. But I suppose that's it. Just being aware that we need to dial things down and kind of help our puppies grow and adapt to this world, and that sounds maybe a little bit airy-fairy to some people, but it's really not. It's just about making positive associations, and we can actually help shape that. If there's something a pup is a little bit fearful of, we can help them with that. We don't need to kind of just dismiss it or just kind of go, well, we know what that thing is, it's no big deal, it's grand. But to that pup, something is scary, so we can help them with these things. So I suppose that's kind of what I'd say to people, is just be understanding that it might be tough for us, being on the receiving end of being nips and the jumping up and stuff like that, but it's also tough for them. And we really have to kind of start looking at things from their perspective as well. It's not easy adapting to a whole new way of living with new people. And I suppose to kind of stop kind of scolding puppies or nagging puppies or whatever, let's show them what we do want them to do instead. And I think that's the big thing in dog training. It's not about telling them what we don't want them to do. It's about actually going, what do I want them to do instead? And then start reinforcing those behaviours that we do like. That's one of the best things you can do. And you can do that from the minute you get your pup home. Start reinforcing things that you like, or the puppy's hanging out in their bed or the crate, or the puppy's, standing. We don't need to be sitting. They're standing and not jumping up on us. I would get in there and reinforce that. So there's loads that you can do throughout the day. Training isn't something that you just do every now and again. Pups are always learning. So I think just tapping into what your pup finds reinforcing, and then really building up behaviours that we like.
Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, we'll leave it at that for today, Carrie. Carrie Hoade, dog trainer at MADRA. Thank you so much for joining me on the Big Bark today.
Thank you. And weekend.
The Big Bark, listen up dog owners, is for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host Darragh Bourke and canine co-hosts Bruno and Millie. The Big Bark,